Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for our official party to enter and come to the stage. I think I asked all the audience to stand up. No one stand up. Please stand for the official party. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our official party for the Australian citizenship ceremony to celebrate Queensland Week. You only take a seat when the official party is taking a seat. Thank you very much. You can take a seat. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I begin by acknowledging the traditional honor of the land on which the ceremony is taking place, the Yukara people, and also acknowledging the Jakara and Yurupoka people whose land covering the north of Logan River and up to the foothill to the Toowoomba Range, and who have taken care of this country for thousands of generations. I pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging, who may be with us today. Welcome to the Australian Citizenship Ceremony to celebrate 2021 Queensland Week. Queensland Day is on the 6th of June 2021. This year marks 72 years since the concept of Australian citizen was introduced into our law in the Nationality and Citizenship Act 1948. My name is Louis Lee. I'm the MC for today. The Queensland Week Citizenship Ceremony is hosted by the Universal Education and Multicultural Exchange Association Incorporated, or called UEMEA in short. For your information, the ladies and gents toilet are on my left. You have to go down to the basement, follow the sign. If there is a fire, please follow the exit sign. If you can switch off your mobile phone or switch to silent. Can I also acknowledge Mr. Graham Parrott, the presiding officer for this ceremony, authorized by the Minister under the Australian Citizenship Act 2007. He's also the federal member for, he's not standing up, we need to stand up so that we know who you are. The federal member for Moreton and also the Shadow Assistant Minister for Education. And Alan Chen, the president of the Universal Education and Multicultural Exchange Association and the host. And Peter Russo, the member for TUHI, also the chair for Legal Affairs and Safety Committee. Dr. John Paul Lambrook, the Shadow Minister for Senior Community and Disability Services and Shadow Minister for Multicultural and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Partnership, also the member for Surfers Paradise, all students of the Sunnybank State High School. Ladies and gentlemen, next person, can I acknowledge Surendra Prasad? I need some drink. Somebody can give me some drink. Can I acknowledge Surendra Prasad, the president of the Fijian Senior Citizen Association of Queensland, also the chairman of the Australian of the Indian Heritage War Memorial Committee at the Sunnybank RSL. Can I also acknowledge Julie Park, the secretary of the Southside United Multicultural Association. Where is Julie Park? He's busy doing volunteer work. And I acknowledge Stanley Shi. Stanley is the treasurer for Queensland Multicultural Council. That is where is Stanley Shi? Somewhere. Down the back. And I acknowledge Grace Yu, the president of the Australian Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce Queensland. That is Grace Yu. Leila Patak, the president of the Mini Women Association of Queensland. My good friend Simon Tan, the president of the Australian Queensland Footing Association. Last night, he was launching what we call 95 Club at Gold Coast The Star. I was doing acknowledgement last night. I come home around about 12 o'clock, I think. So I haven't had a lot of sleep tonight. And I also acknowledge Peter Juan, the president of the Australian Queensland Sandong Association. That is Peter Juan. William Wu, the president of Queensland Georgian United Association. And I acknowledge Richard Kwan, the president of Queensland Community Development Association. He's volunteer at the back of AEC here. And I acknowledge Peter Zhu Wuzhen, the president of the ACCEP, Australian China Culture and Economy Promotion Association. And I also acknowledge Vera Pottinger, the president of the Australian Indonesian Culture and Welfare Association. That is Vera, the later on singing the national anthem. Prakriti Mansur Guru Shah, the ambassador for Red Carpet Function. Sasha Marine, the electoral advisor to the grandparent, and Tan Won or Jack Lee, the Grandmaster of Taekwondo. Where is Jack Lee? Okay, I can't see. Anita Huan, the treasurer of the Australian Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce. Where's Anita Huan? Alan, over there. Can I also acknowledge Liu Zheng Luo, the vice president of ACCEP? Where is Liu Zheng Luo? I pronounce that as Lu because it's L-O-U. Johnson Chen, the past president of Queensland Chinese Forum. And Fahima Ahmadi, the youth member for Stratton. Emily King, is Emily King here? Emily King is also the past youth member for Stratton. Serena Cheng and Anson Chen and Li Li and Andrew Chen and Annie San and Dong Dong. All the UEMEA citizenship team and volunteers. Last of all, I would like to acknowledge the 50 conferees soon to be the new citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Graham Parrott, the presiding officer, to deliver the opening speech and also the message from the minister. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Graham Parrott.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Could I also acknowledge the traditional owners and thank them for their strong and continuing stewardship. I know we've got 50 people coming from all around the world who will be making Australia their home in this wonderful ceremony. Lewis Lee's 47th ceremony. So thank you for that, Lewis, for the devotion you have to making sure Australians feel welcome and that they belong. We acknowledge the traditional owners, recognising that part of Australian history, continuing history, that oldest continuous culture on earth. I know that you will belong here, but we will only truly belong here when we recognise those truths. I also like to welcome the other distinguished guests. I won't go through the long list of distinguished guests. A lot of community activists giving up your Sunday morning to come along and welcome you Australians. But I particularly like to acknowledge Alan and all of the volunteers that made today possible. I know it is very well organised. John Paul Langbrook and I were commenting on that, how very well organised it is. It's like a finely tuned train system, everything running on time. So thank you to all of the volunteers. And I'd also acknowledge John Paul Langbrook from the opposition, who's come all the way from the Gold Coast to make this possible. I know he has a special connection to his old high school, but still thank you very much for being a part of this ceremony. And to Peter Russo, the local state member. And I'd also like to acknowledge a state member who is no longer able to be here, and that is Duncan Pegg, the state member for Stratton, who I know has been a part of these ceremonies in the past, and obviously we will truly miss him. Now, my job is to read the message from the Honourable Alex Hawke, MP, Minister for Immigration, Citizenship, Migrant Services and Multicultural Affairs. And so I begin. Today, you become an Australian citizen. We are immensely proud of what we have achieved as a nation, and we welcome you in joining us. Our history and culture has been forged over thousands of years, first through Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and more recently with people from all corners of the earth. Australia has succeeded as a nation by embracing and defending our national values. We believe in the freedom and dignity of each individual, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of association. We value the rule of law, democracy, and equality of opportunity of all people, for all people. We stand with other democracies in helping to defend and protect these hard-fought freedoms. We are a resilient nation. Drought, bushfires, floods, and a global pandemic have challenged our normal way of life. Our social cohesion, a key strength of Australia, has never been more important. Upon taking the pledge of commitment today, I call on you to embrace these values and the rights and responsibilities of Australian citizenship and play an active part in your local communities to build an even stronger nation. On behalf of the Australian Government, I congratulate you on reaching this very special day. Alex Hall, Minister for Immigration, Citizenship, Migrant Services and Multicultural Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parrott and the presiding officer. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to invite the host, Alan Cheng, the president of the Universal Education and Multicultural Exchange Association Incorporated, or UEMEA, to deliver his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alan Cheng.
Thanks, Luis. Good morning. Today, we have a 50th conference becoming Australia citizens. Queensland Day on 6 June is an opportunity for all Australians to come together as a nation to reflect, respect, and celebrate. Australians can be proud of who we are as a nation. Our Australia values unite us and welcome migrants from across the world makes us strong. Congratulations to the conference who will be the new Australia citizens. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan Cheng. Next, I would like to invite Peter Russo MP, the state member for Toohey. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Peter Russo MP.
I'd like to start this morning by acknowledging all the distinguished guests that Lewis has so ably introduced to the audience. I'm the state member for the area, and for those of you who are going to enrol in the state electorate of Toohey, I will be your state representative. I'm the son of an Italian whose father came to Australia as an economic refugee, and I'd like to start my speech today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we are gathered, the Jagera people, elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to a heritage that is steeped in traditions of our First Nations people who have lived on these lands for over 60,000 years, and the Torres Strait Islander people. Their rich cultures have contributed to this great land. In this great nation, you are all equal to all, and it does not matter where your ancestors are from. We are a nation of diverse people. So welcome to your citizenship ceremony and welcome to Australia. During the recent Australia Day celebrations, there was a poem put on their website, which is reflect, respect and celebrate. And I'm going to read that. The story of Australia is the story of me. It's the story of you, and it's the story of we. In parts it is painful, in parts it is raw. In others it's beautiful, inspiring great awe. It tells of many people from far and wide, and those who've been here since the beginning of time. It brings us together, it tears us apart. We all have our views, so where do we start? By listening to each other and sharing our part. We are all part of the story. In closing, I'd also like to mention my colleague Duncan Pegg. Duncan was a big part of the citizenship ceremonies that Lewis and Alan conducted throughout our electorate, and was always present to welcome new citizens. He was my colleague. I sat beside him in Parliament. We ran fundraisers together. We had many arguments about minutiae, which in the cold light of day really didn't amount to much. So my biggest regrets are that there were times when perhaps I wasn't as kind to Duncan as I could have been, but May he rest in peace. He was a great colleague and he worked very hard for his multicultural community.
Yes, Duncan, we also want to send condolences to Duncan family. Duncan, I was fortunate to be the MC on the 30th of April for the community thank you and farewell at Sampac. And I'll also attend there's a performing arts center, 10 million performing arts center at Stratton State College, named after in his honor. And that was unveiled last week, which is called Duncan Head Performing Arts Center. Alan and myself was there. We unveiled together with the four brothers, Duncan four brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, next I would like to invite John Paul Lambert MP, the Shadow Minister for Senior Community and Disability Services and Shadow Minister for Multicultural and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Partnership, and also the member for Surfers Paradise to deliver his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. John Paul Lambert MP.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a special welcome, of course, as we've heard from Graham Perrott, to all of you who are becoming a citizen. I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, of course, and my parliamentary colleague, Peter Rousseau and Graham Perrott from the Federal Parliament, Lewis Lee, of course, and Alan Chen, and all of these other people who have been acknowledged as well, who are often from the multicultural communities. And as Graham Perrott said to me before we began, this is one of the most enjoyable parts of the job that we do. Whether you're from Surfers Paradise, where I'm from, so there won't be many of you who are enrolling to vote in Surfers Paradise, but I know that you'll aspire to move to the Gold Coast at some stage, and maybe you will move to Surfers Paradise, and then you'll be on the roll and I'll be looking to get your vote. But seriously, it's a great memory for me to come, and I want to thank Lewis, who's invited me for the second time to come back, because this was my old school. And that was in the late 1970s that I finished. In fact, when I was here at the school, we didn't even have a school hall. We had to go do our school musicals and our presentations at Salisbury State High School or Yeronga State High School. But my message to you more is, just as we've heard from Peter Rousseau, he's an Italian migrant, and as I was driving up this morning from the Gold Coast, it reminded me of the story that I often hear the Lord Mayor, Adrian Schrinner, tell of his father, who was a German migrant. And so the story that I can tell you is of a Dutch teacher who married an American woman who he met in New York, had a child in 1961 in Holland. And the weather for my mother, who was the American, was very bleak, and she and I both got terrible bronchitis. And so this was the post-war migration that we were having a lot of people coming from Europe to Australia. And so my father and mother were in Holland, and they had Dutch friends who said, you should come to Australia. And so they did. They got on a boat and they came to Australia, and amazingly, they stayed with their Dutch friends here in Fruit Grove in 1962. So I was 1 year old, and they ended up then going to Boona, where my father was a teacher, and finally Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast. And then after many places that we went to as a family, we ended up here back in Brisbane and living in Runcorn, just a couple of kilometres from where we first came in 1962. But the point of my story to you is that when Graham Perrott and I look at the list of migrants or citizens becoming citizens today, many of you are from the Asian continent, which is the newer wave of migration. But that's something that we welcome as Queenslanders and Australians, because it's a country that has given all of us great opportunity, a community, an education, a family. For me, having gone to this state school back then, not many state school kids went to university. I became a dentist, and I would never have imagined that I'd end up a member of Parliament. But importantly, there are many who are just like you, who are sitting in the front rows, who are members of our multicultural community in terms of leadership. So that's something I'd exhort you to consider doing, trying to put back into your community by joining some of those associations and encouraging your members of your diaspora to become part of the Queensland family. Because that's what makes Queensland such a great state in what we consider to be the best multicultural community in the world, because of our harmony, our tolerance and our respect. It's something that's given me everything that I have. And for many of you, it will also you'll have mixed feelings about family you've left behind, about your associations from your home countries. We don't want you to give them up, but we do say, please become part of the Queensland and Australian family. It has so much to give, just as it's given all of us, and we welcome you today. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the microphone is not working. It's working now? I can't feel it. Thank you. It's working now. Thank you, Dr. John Paul Lambrook, for your wonderful speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite Mr. Graham Parrott to do the preamble and also the pledge of commitment. Mr. Parrott, MP, please.
John Paul, we didn't organise that microphone to cut out, and I think people could hear you clearly. That was a great speech. Thank you very much. And thank you to Alan and Peter and Lewis. I realise I'm one of the minority on this stage here at the moment, probably the minority in this hall, but I irrespective, will all be Queenslanders, will all be Australians at the end of this ceremony. But you do have to listen to this part of the ceremony. It's a requirement of the Australian Citizenship Act 2007. So I'm now going to read the preamble from Schedule 1 of the Australian Citizenship Regulation 2016. Australian citizenship represents full and formal membership of the community of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Australian citizenship is a common bond involving reciprocal rights and obligations, uniting all Australians while respecting their diversity. Persons on whom Australian citizenship is conferred enjoy these rights and undertake to accept these obligations by pledging loyalty to Australia and its people, by sharing their democratic beliefs, by respecting their rights and liberties, and by upholding and obeying the laws of Australia. I will now ask those conferees who are making pledge number 1, which is the pledge containing the words, "Under God," could you please now stand if you're making pledge number 1. Also, if you wish to make the pledge on your holy book, please hold it in your hands now. So this is... Okay, please repeat this line by line after me. From this time forward, under God, I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people, whose democratic beliefs I share, whose rights and liberties I respect, and whose laws I will uphold and obey. Thank you. Please be seated. I will now ask all those conferees making pledge number 2. Pledge number 2. So that is everybody else. There is no pledge number 3. Please repeat this pledge line by line after me. From this time forward, I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people, whose democratic beliefs I share, whose rights and liberties I respect, and whose laws I will uphold and obey. Now the people that made pledge number 1, could you stand please? And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our 50 new Australians. Well done, congratulations.
Thank you. You may take a seat now. I think Grant didn't ask them to take a seat. It's all right. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the presentation of the Australian Citizenship Certificate and the gift. So the volunteer, please get ready. Can I ask Fahima Ahmadi to call all the going to be new citizens? Fahima is the youth member for Stretton 2021. She is from Stretton State College and she came from Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fahima Ahmadi.
Ladies and gentlemen, each country who has made the pledge is called forward individually to receive the citizenship certificate from Mr. Graham Perrott MP and gift from Alan Chen, the host. Country's name will be now called out. When your name is called, please move to the front of the stage and please feel free to take photographs.